everyone. A very good evening. You're watching The Money Show on ET now. It's Friday, which means it's time for our Ladies Special. This is the show where we, of course, get you the hot topic, the talking points, the trends that are currently something that we should all be chatting about. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the jobs market, because guess what? There finally seems to be some glimmer of hope over there. Slowly, not just are people starting to hire, and when I say people, I'm talking specifically about a couple of sectors. Unfortunately, this whole hiring spree has not pervaded to each and every sector out there, but slowly and steadily companies are also rolling back on the salary cuts that they had to put in place to tackle with the COVID lockdown. Mostly we should be seeing salary cuts being rolled back as we proceed towards the end of this financial year, but guess what, it's perhaps come in a bit earlier than expected. So what exactly are the the tweaks, the skills that you need to add to your resume should you go to the negotiating table with your HR department? What are the trends in salaries? What are the top and high demand jobs in today's world is what we'll be discussing on the show, and I'm joined by three very special guests to talk about all of this and more. But before we do that, LinkedIn, the world's largest professional network, launched new tools and resources to help the unemployed professionals get back to work. These new additions come at a time when hiring in India continues to recover at a 12% year-on-year growth rate in August 2020, which is not that bad. And this is, of course, as per LinkedIn's labor market data. My colleague Chandra Shrikant joins us with more on this.
The good news is hiring is recovering in India. It was up 12% compared to the year ago period for the end of August, and the competition for jobs is also 30% higher compared to the previous year. This is according to data from LinkedIn's labor market update. Interestingly, almost 3 in 5 professionals in India are willing to pivot their careers in order to cope better with the current times. And those in industries such as travel and recreation are likely to pivot more than the others. LinkedIn also says nearly 150 million tech jobs are expected to be created in the platform over the next few years. And in fact, if you look at the most in-demand skills, the most in-demand jobs, that kind of fits in with this narrative. So the most in-demand roles in India: software engineer, application developer, full stack engineer, system analyst, business analyst, and the fastest growing skills: Python, machine learning, data structures, digital marketing, and HTML5. So I guess if you have those skills and if you're looking on for those roles, there's good news for you as far as the job market is concerned. So those are some of the trends from LinkedIn's labor market update.
Okay, Chandra, thanks so much for that. Well, now that we have set the stage for discussion, let's introduce the very special panel that I have with me today on the show. First up is Rituparna Chakraborty. She is the co-founder of Teamlease. Swati Salunkhe, the Managing Director of Growth Centre India Pvt Limited, and Neha Bagaria, the founder and CEO of JobsForHer. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today on ET Now. My colleague Chandra was flagging off some of those in-demand skills and jobs, and that's one of the things that I'd really like to discuss with you as well, so that all our viewers do know what's out there, what's the demand out there. Are their skills, are their talent pools essentially obsolete? Do they need to retrain themselves? And unfortunately, the pace and the cycle at which you have to retrain yourselves has definitely shortened. The pace has increased, the cycles have shortened. So let me go across, Rituparna, though, to you first. We have more and more companies essentially saying that, look, we want to hire now. So many more companies are now coming out of that embargo of sorts put on that hiring thing. So do you believe that that the job market is slowly starting to see green shoots? The operative word here is, of course, slowly, a bit more steadily, but at least is there some sign of good news there?
I think there is a sign of cautious optimism when it comes to hiring. So organizations are, as the recovery process is happening, are realizing that two things essentially needs to happen within organizations is that they need to focus on, of course, retaining their existing employee base, as well as look for talents wherever relevant. However, we also noticed that in spite of some of the sectors being beneficiaries, if I may call them that, of the COVID phenomena, they're also being very measured in terms of their hiring. Of course, sectors like healthcare and pharma, educational services, agriculture and agrochemical companies, FMCG, IT in a big way, power and energy, e-commerce are definitely looking up. And some of them have honestly been doing quite well even through the pandemic, and some of them are actually showing signs of clear recovery. Telecommunication, again, is one such sector. So we are seeing that there are specific hirings which are happening across these sectors. However, we also noticed that each of the hiring are extremely measured. There is also a focus on hiring people with specialized skill sets, niche profiles. There is overarching demand for skills which are digital in nature, whether it's marketing, whether it's in terms of development from a technology perspective, whether it's in terms of content writing. So I think all kinds of digital skill sets definitely are in demand in terms of higher skills job. Even in terms of technology, we are seeing that as more and more companies are focusing on developing a much more stronger, intelligence of trying to understand customers through using technology solutions, whether it's AI, machine learning, data sciences. So any professionals who possibly could add value to organization in these areas are much in demand. And these are, of course, in the higher skill sides. And at the bottom of the pillar, we definitely seeing increasing demand. Again, I cannot compare it with pre-COVID era in e-commerce, where overarchingly the demand for delivery agents have gone up. However, we believe it's also going to be seasonal in nature. So we'll have to see whether this demand actually is sustained even after December. So I think overarchingly, these are some of the patterns that are emerging across various sectors. But side by side, there are a few sectors which continue to be in a state of slump, where there is absolutely no hiring. There is absolutely no movement that we notice.
Neha, is that something that you as well are witnessing on your platform, compared to what you saw prior to COVID? There's suddenly been this one-way surge in demand, which is more on the high-set skill with respect to technology, data, software, coding, machine learning, so on and so forth. Do you think that there's this, the concentration of the kind of jobs that the companies are looking for is more towards that field as opposed to any other field?
Absolutely, Mubina. We've seen actually an increase in demand in 3 specific areas. One of them is absolutely technology roles. And the increase in demand that we've seen in tech roles aren't only limited to tech companies. Even our companies who are in other industries like BFSI, education, retail, healthcare, manufacturing, all of them are looking at hiring more and more talent in technology, because everybody's realized the importance to digitize and automate their entire supply chains, the way they were selling, their marketing, the entire value chain is getting digitized. And for that, they need to build that kind of tech talent. So we're seeing a huge demand when it comes to technology. The second area where we've actually seen a demand increase has been in work from home roles. So previously, companies were not really ready to hire a lot of work from home talent. And this COVID era has made them realize that we can make work from home work, and it helps them reduce costs. So we've also seen a big demand coming up over there, and those would be a mixture of tech as well as non-tech roles. So non-tech roles would include sales, marketing, writing, teachers, accountants, etc. And the third area where we've seen demand increasing for jobs is actually for women in leadership areas. That is one area where companies across the board have a real dearth of talent in. They start off with enough women at the entry level, but that starts quickly leaking as we climb up the ladder. And this pandemic has showed them the importance of a lot of other skills that are required from their leaders, which they've started realizing that by having more women leaders, they'll be able to get in their workforce. So we are also seeing a lot of job increases when it comes to jobs with 10 to 15 years experience, where they're looking at increasing women at the top positions.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've highlighted a very important characteristic of female participation in the labor force. Yes, it's all out there, in the entry level, but it slowly starts to, sort of slim down as years progress. Now, Swati, from Rituparna, from Neha, the one thing we established is this, this trend of technology and, jobs that essentially can be done from home. But of course, Swati, not everybody has the skill set, and especially when we talk about technology, right? It's a very fine science. It's not something that perhaps everybody can grasp as well. So how should they navigate these waters? I mean, how should they essentially hone on skills, or do you think they should try and acquire, skills pertinent to the field of technology, the field of IT?
Technology does play a bigger role out here, and to survive and to sustain, you need to know, or you need to have technological knowledge. But one shouldn't forget that soft skills also play a bigger role in sustaining oneself. It could be the adaptability and the flexibility skills. As you see, like we are all sitting at our home and doing this thing. But imagine if I had to imagine a few months ago, this was not even thought about. But somewhere, you work from home has become a culture. The new normal has set in. So adaptability, flexibility, one has to be very creative and innovative in designing their new services or products. There has to be critical thinking on, because with limited resources, how best you can deliver the results in that limited time has to be there. Not to forget the most important soft skill again, something like emotional intelligence. There are people undergoing a lot of personal issues. Maybe people are not able to work within teams, or the dynamics have changed a lot, and still getting the work done from people as a team. There's no human connect out there. Somebody might be meeting a few of their colleagues for 10-15 minutes, or maybe they have never met them, but still they have to get the work done. So you see, online work has its own challenges too. So people need to explore this part of their human skills also. Also, not to forget, these days, people have to be very independent. Technology definitely has helped us, but independent thought processes, work for home, work from home is now wherein you're working alone. You have to gather those skill set at the earliest. A digital mindset has to be set in. You cannot say no to this technological advancement. And the most important, what was available to us at the click of the button is no more there. We have to wait. It could be due to certain technological glitches somewhere wherein somebody has lost a job, or it could be any other reason, or there might be a total overhauling of the entire company, or maybe the entire hiring system or something. So patience plays a big role. Not all the jobs which are there are technological driven, but technology is a part and parcel. Today, a teacher's job, a teacher needs to teach online also. It's not that she's going to lose the job, but the thing is they have to adapt to this. So adaptability, flexibility, which is not written in any resume. These are all those intangible skills that a person brings to the table, and then sets into the hierarchy mode, or gets it going, or in the path of progress. So you see, with technology, a little bit of technology, at least to survive, but soft skills also play an important role. So not to forget that soft skills are now a default skills by itself. So people need to look into this part also. So it's like master of jack of all and master of at least one. It has to be the mantra.
Okay, all right. Well, on that note, ladies, I'll request you to stay on with us. We'll take a very short break, but when we return, folks, we'll be talking about the rollback in salary cuts that we've been witnessing. Has your company or your industry done that? When can you expect them to do that? And also, how can you stand out in this job market? All of this will be discussed after a very short break. welcome back. You're watching The Money Show on ET now, where we're talking about the status of the job market. Is there a recovery? Companies also rolling back on the salary cuts that were unfortunately imposed on many employees as we struggled with the pandemic. So, Rituparna, let's take on board that point on salaries. On one side, of course, you have TCS, Infi, etc. Forget about salary cuts; they're actually giving out bonuses, etc. And then slowly, there are some companies that are also rolling back salary cuts. Are you seeing more instances of that? Where companies are now saying that, okay, look, we are restoring your original salary, and here you go on top of that a little bit of a bonus as well. Or do you think we're still far from those days?
In all fairness, I think different companies have been affected by the pandemic differently. Different sectors have been affected by the pandemic differently. And of course, technology as a sector should not actually be brought into any of these discussions, because I do believe, and I've always felt that in the short run, long run, technology would end up being one of the beneficiaries of this pandemic. And hence, let's keep technology aside. For the rest of the sectors, yes, for sure, we are seeing that there is a move towards rolling back on some of the salary cuts, either fully or partially. And largely that has been made possible because of the revenues kicking in. And finally, we all know, customers pay salary, not shareholders. So I think as customers are coming back and as the revenues have started clocking in, organizations are realizing that they are in a position to be able to make some of these decisions. Also, the fact is, when the economy starts opening up, we must realize that the first 2 quarters have been times when organizations, in any case, have been focusing on a lot of furloughs, pay cuts, even layoffs to kind of tide through the situation. So organizations, in any case, running with very lean employee base, especially, and the ones who are around are the ones who are high performing, the ones who organization felt that they can make long-term investment in, and if they do not do the rollbacks, it's going to definitely impact employee motivation, morale, as well as be exposed to possible opportunities where others might come and start poaching. Festivals season is also here, and that itself brings in a certain element of expectations. That's why I think that more and more organizations are moving in that direction. However, there are a few sectors where it's unlikely to happen because they continue to remain in slump and revenues are still a big question mark. So we might see that while it's being made possible in some organization, other organizations, rollbacks might take a little longer. However, it's a good sign. I think overall it is a welcome sign, because we are also seeing employees who were earlier working from home now are getting back to work and offices. So which itself also is a trigger, because that also has an impact in terms of the expenses overall. I think spending's going up. So I think keeping all of that in mind, we are noticing that it's happening. And I am positive and I am optimistic that in the next few quarters, you will hear more such news. And I'm hoping that by the first quarter of 2021, we shall hear more news of revisions and increments as well. But honestly, it's an expectation, it's a hope statement, largely on account of the fact that we really don't know whether we are at the beginning of the pandemic, the middle of it, or at the end of it. We all know what's happened in US and Europe in recent times, and hence it's important for us to be measured and cautious in terms of taking these steps. And everybody in the ecosystem, employers, employees, need to be mindful.
Just to follow up over there, Rituparna, like you mentioned, some companies are doing it, some of course aren't. So if I'm working, let's say, in one company, and I see that, okay, look, what my peer has over there, a competing company or a company in the same industry has rolled back salary cuts. Why is my company not rolling back, the salary that they have cut, when the pandemic first hit? Do you think it would be unfair on my part to, go over to my boss and ask him to sort of, hike my salary back?
I think while we have, for the ease of discussions, ended up giving sectoral split of impact of the pandemic, however, it's important to understand that even within certain industries, different organizations have been impacted differently because of their cash position, because of their debt position, because of the nature or the niche nature, or whether it's a discretionary item, how people intensive business has been one business as against the other. So having said that, it's very much possible that within an industry, one organization takes a lead in doing something like that based on their financial health, based on how resilient and sustainable, not during the pandemic, otherwise the organization has been. Employee always has that choice to have that discussion. However, I think one has to take a long-term perspective in terms of securing their own livelihood, which means that if that employee, if the answer to that question is such where you don't think that your organization is in a position to do it, you really in your mind have to make up that decision whether you want to stick with that company or you want to look out and move to someone else. So I think an employee always have the option of having those conversations, but one should be really mindful of the circumstances, the options available for oneself, and hence take the necessary step.
Okay, all right. Okay, Swati, pardon me, Neha, let me come to you. I want to talk to you then about how an individual could currently stand out in the job market. What would you recommend to those people who are perhaps looking out for jobs right now?
Sure, and that's a very pertinent question, Mubina, because on our platform, actually, we've seen a huge spike in the number of women applicants that are coming on board and are looking for these job opportunities. Many of these were women who were on a break right now, and now they're realizing the importance of that second income. Many of them are looking for other jobs from the one that they're in right now. And our advice to that woman would be different depending on which kind of sector, what level of experience, etc., would she be looking for in the next opportunity. But some things that would be common across the board would be an extremely important need for upskilling oneself. Yeah, like we discussed, technology is impacting pretty much every role, every function, every industry. So it's very important for that person to show updated skills when it comes to the particular domain expertise that they're showcasing. And in today's day and age, it's become so easy to upskill yourself. You know, you can do it sitting from home on at your like everything is available at your fingertips. So for a job seeker, they need to figure out what is the kind of job that they are aspiring for, see what are the skills that are mandatory for those jobs, and make sure that they either have experience in those skills or they are applying for certification programs in those skills so that they can showcase not just their intent for that job, but also their expertise. Other things that are extremely critical for any job seeker include for example, networking. Yeah, it is very important for anybody to make sure that they're keeping their networks alive and they're using it from a professional point of view. Many times women are great at building social and personal networks, but we forget how valuable those networks can be professionally. And the third thing is making sure that they're creating some sort of a personal brand for themselves. And a lot of social media platforms are great for any individual to create that kind of personal brand, because when you actually stand for a particular when you actually stand for expertise in a particular domain and you showcase thought leadership in that using social media platforms, that helps you build your networks in those domains also, which will help you land that job. So besides for the regular route of ensuring that you're applying for a lot of jobs, because you will have to kiss many frogs before you can find that matching prince. Besides for doing that, these other facets, which are upskilling, networking, creating a personal brand, will increase your chances of getting an even better opportunity.
All right. Okay. I think those were great recommendations coming in, Neha. Swati, we live in very tumultuous times and, like I flagged off at the earlier part, right? The disruption cycles are getting shorter and shorter. Do you think that there's going to be this constant need of reskilling and upskilling for individuals, and that this whole bit on that, okay, you've studied for the first 20 years of your life and now you just have to earn for the remaining 40 or 50 is now a passé concept?
Definitely, to survive, it is reskilling, upskilling, and cross-skilling. In fact, change is the only constant. That is what we have been always, which is a known statement to all of us. But adapting to it and actually realizing that this is it. I need to upgrade myself. What happens is a lot of people do come to us for the counseling sessions. That is this the right time, and what do I do? And there are a number of courses online. What I would say is whatever is in need of you or whatever you're lacking, and it is going with the your goal set or something which takes you further in your job profile itself, that you need to do. But definitely for today's world, you cannot be like, okay, I've done it all, or I had achieved this, or this was my CTC or something like that. It's not going to help anymore. You need to come upfront, as Neha and Ritu has actually mentioned most of the points. They need to create the brand. They need to come through the social media networks. They need to come up with the hidden talents and use their network to the fullest. But yes, upskilling, cross-skilling, and reskilling is the mantra for survival in today's world. That's for sure. Without having this skill set, not only this, the technological skills, the soft skills, it would be very difficult to survive.
And you think, Swati, that people should also be comfortable switching their careers? Once it was an unfathomable concept, but now, like we mentioned, disruption cycle is getting shorter.
The answer to it is yes as well as no. That's because if it is yes, the points, if a person is very comfortable, that I'm ready to upskill or upgrade my educational skills, I'm ready to take the risk. It should be a calculated risk, as you see. Something wherein I'm ready to trend on the unknown part, ready to face any kind of challenges, compromise on the finances as well as the lifestyle, then I think and has an idea and can really have the patience to work in this market, can definitely take a call on that. But no, and definitely no for people who are not ready to come up with all these things. With a positive mindset, you need to stay put over there. As mentioned earlier also, there are a lot of pay cuts and pay rises, and just comparing with others and just making the switch for that can be really fatal at times. So what is the reason, and are you ready to trend that path? Makes a lot of sense. What has happened is in this counseling sessions for the past so many months, because of the pandemic, people are asking that, okay, there is no more growth, so should I switch it to another sector or an industry? But the question is, things will be changing. Pandemic is not going to be permanent. And the most importantly, do you have the skill set, the educational qualification, and are you ready to compromise on certain things? It could be designation, it could be salary, it could be starting from the scratch. It could be, you might be having a fabulous idea, but there might be no investors for you. So are you ready to wait, be patient enough to take things forward? Then only the switch is possible. Otherwise, it's like just grin and be there, just hang on there for some time more.
All right. Okay. Calculated risk. Essentially, that's the name of the game. But on that note, Rituparna, Neha, and Swati, it was a pleasure having you with us, and I hope that our viewers as well have learned from you guys, taken notes as well on what the future of the job market is like, which will be the most in-demand jobs, how salaries are shaping up, if people are rolling back the salary cuts that were doled out, unfortunately, in the beginning of the pandemic. And yes, when should you consider really switching jobs as well? All of these very subjective questions, very subjective answers, but I hope that the guidance given by our experts essentially helps you take that call. And if you want to catch this episode, you can do so by logging on to ET Now's YouTube page on under the Money Show playlist. For now, we'll take a very short break.